scorching Texas sun beat down mercilessly as I adjusted my Stetson, squinting against the glare. I'm Officer Emily Hawkins, and after 12 years with the Texas Department of Public Safety, I thought I'd seen it all. But nothing could have prepared me for the extraordinary events that unfolded on that sweltering afternoon on Highway 83. It started as a routine call reports of a small animal disrupting traffic. As I approached the scene, I noticed a cluster of vehicles pulled over, their occupants pointing and snapping photos with their phones. The air shimmered with heat as I stepped out of my cruiser, the weight of my utility belt a familiar comfort against the uncertainty that lay ahead. "Afternoon, folks," I called out, approaching a man in a faded ranger's cap. "What seems to be the problem?" He wiped sweat from his brow, gesturing towards the median. "There's a little bobcat, ma'am. Been trying to cross for nearly half an hour now. Almost caused a pileup when a semi had to brake hard." I nodded, my eyes scanning the area. That's when I saw it. A small bobcat kitten, no more than a few months old, its spotted coat dusty from the roadside, but something was off about its behavior. This wasn't an animal randomly crossing a road. Its movements seemed deliberate, almost frantic. Raising my binoculars, I noticed something that made my heart skip a beat. A small device attached to the cat's hind leg with what appeared to be a blue marker. This wasn't just any wild animal. Instinct told me there was more to this story, and I was determined to uncover it. I retreated to my cruiser and made a call to the Regional Fish and Wildlife Office. Within minutes, a white pickup truck pulled up, and Dr. Alex Foster emerged. He was a seasoned wildlife biologist, his sun-weathered face a testament to decades spent in the field. As we approached the median, careful to keep our movements slow and non-threatening, Dr. Foster's eyes widened. "Well, I'll be damned," he muttered. "That's not one of our tags." The bobcat spotted us and instead of fleeing, moved closer. It made a small, urgent sound, then turned and took a few steps towards the forest bordering the highway, looking back at us expectantly. "It wants us to follow it?" Dr. Foster said, amazement in his voice. I raised an eyebrow. "Like Lassie?" He nodded gravely. "I know how it sounds, but in 25 years, I've never seen a wild bobcat behave like this." As Dr. Foster examined the tag through his binoculars, his face paled. "Emily, that's not a wildlife tag. It's an emergency location marker, usually issued to hikers in certain parks." A chill ran down my spine despite the oppressive heat. Why would a bobcat have a hiker's location marker? As Dr. Foster made some calls, the pieces of the puzzle began to fall into place. A missing hiker, Robert Chen, an experienced outdoorsman and wildlife rehabilitator, had failed to check in from his solo trek in Fortress Ridge State Park. The bobcat, we later learned her name was Luna, was one of Robert's rescue animals, part of a rehabilitation program. Somehow, she had ended up with his emergency marker and, against all odds, had made her way to the highway seeking help. As realization dawned, Luna's behavior took on new meaning. This wasn't just an animal in distress. This was a heroic creature on a desperate mission to save her human companion. Without hesitation, Dr. Foster and I decided to follow Luna into the forest. The temperature dropped noticeably under the canopy of oak and juniper trees, but the tension in the air was palpable. Luna stayed about 50 feet ahead, visible enough to follow, but maintaining her distance. As we trekked deeper into the wilderness, signs of human passage became evident: boot prints, disturbed undergrowth, and most alarmingly, spots of what appeared to be dried blood on several leaves. After what felt like hours but was likely only a mile, we came to a clearing where Luna's behavior changed. She paced anxiously, making that same urgent sound we'd heard earlier. As we approached the edge of a steep drop-off, my heart nearly stopped. Below, in a ravine about 30 feet deep, partially concealed by a fallen tree, lay a motionless human form. "Robert!" Dr. Foster called out. "Robert Chen!" The figure moved slightly, raising an arm in what might have been a wave. Relief washed over me. He was alive! Carefully, we made our way down the treacherous slope, Luna finding her own path with feline agility. When we reached the bottom, we found Robert conscious, but in dire straits. His leg was trapped under the fallen tree, his face pale from exposure and dehydration. But when he saw Luna approach, a weak smile crossed his face. "Luna," he whispered. "Good girl." As Dr. Foster tended to Robert's injuries, the story unfolded. A sudden storm had spooked Luna, and in following her, Robert had been caught in a lightning-struck tree fall. Unable to reach his emergency beacon, he had made a desperate gambit, attaching his location marker to Luna's tracking harness and sending her to find help. I wasn't sure it would work, Robert admitted, his voice filled with pride and affection for the small predator who had defied all expectations. But I hoped she'd go to the road and someone would notice her tag. As we waited for the search and rescue team to arrive, I found myself in awe of the bond between Robert and Luna. This small creature, not fully wild yet, not truly tame, had braved unknown dangers and overcome her instincts to seek help for her human friend. The rescue operation was a blur of activity, but through it all, Luna remained close, her spotted body pressed against Robert's side, watching us with cautious but trusting eyes. As Robert was being lifted onto the stretcher, his concern was still for Luna. "Please," he called out weakly, "someone needs to look after her. She's not ready for full release yet." Dr. Foster stepped forward without hesitation. "I'll take personal responsibility for her until you're back on your feet, Robert. You have my word." The relief on Robert's face was palpable as he was carried up the ravine. Luna tried to follow, making small distress sounds that tugged at my heart. Acting on instinct, I knelt down to her level. "It's okay, girl," I said softly. "He's gonna be all right, and you did good. Real good." Luna regarded me with intelligent eyes that seemed to understand more than any wild animal should. In that moment, I felt a connection to this remarkable creature that defied explanation. The story of Robert, Chen, and Luna the Bobcat made headlines across the nation. "Man's life saved by heroic Bobcat companion," the articles proclaimed. It was a tale that captured hearts and imaginations, a testament to the extraordinary bonds that can form between humans and animals. Weeks later, I found myself driving to the Austin Wildlife Rehabilitation Center where Robert worked. I couldn't get the story out of my mind, and when my sergeant suggested a follow-up visit as part of our community outreach program, I jumped at the chance. The center was an impressive facility, modern buildings surrounded by naturalistic enclosures spread across 20 acres outside Austin. As I was led to a sunny room where Robert sat in a wheelchair, his casted leg propped up, I felt a surge of emotion, remembering the dire circumstances of our first meeting. "Officer Hawkins," he smiled, extending his hand. "It's good to finally meet you properly. Last time, I was a bit indisposed." I laughed, shaking his hand warmly. "Call me Emily, please. And you were handling a compound fracture better than most people handle a paper cut." Robert's face lit up as he spoke about Luna's progress. "Why don't you see for yourself? We're about to do our afternoon training session." As we made our way to a large enclosure where Dr. Foster was already waiting, I was struck by how this experience had changed not just Robert and Luna, but all of us involved. Dr. Foster had been coming twice a week to help with Luna's rehabilitation, fascinated by her unique case and the implications for wildlife conservation. Watching Luna navigate her training obstacles with grace and intelligence, I marveled at the journey that had brought us all together. This small bobcat, once a helpless kitten, had become a hero against all odds. She had not only saved Robert's life, but had also opened our eyes to the incredible potential for understanding and cooperation between humans and wildlife. As the sun began to set over the rehabilitation center, casting a warm glow over Luna's spotted coat, I realized that this experience had fundamentally changed me. It had reminded me of the unexpected miracles that can occur in this line of work, and the profound impact that one small act of trust between a man and a wild creature can have on so many lives. Luna's story was more than just a tale of animal heroism. It was a testament to the power of compassion, the strength of the human-animal bond, and the remarkable resilience of life in all its forms. As I watched her nuzzle affectionately against Robert's hand, I knew that I would carry this story with me for the rest of my career and my life. A reminder that in the vast wilderness of Texas, and indeed the world, there are still wonders waiting to be discovered, and heroes can come in the most unexpected packages.